Hello everybody, Jamie Trull here, your favorite CPA and financial literacy coach. And today we're going to be doing a little bit of rumor dispelling. So I'm recording this video in April of 2022, and at this point in time, for many months, there has been a lot of information swirling about tax changes that are happening in 2022, specifically related to a lot of the different cash apps that you use. That might be Cash App, Venmo, PayPal, Zelle, etc. And there's a lot of consternation going around about new things being taxable, and this going to be something that increases taxes for everybody. And I just want to give you my perspective as a CPA who has read up on all the rules and understands the changes as they are actually happening. So let's jump into it. Let's do a little bit of myth busting. So first and foremost, let's talk about the purpose for what these changes are supposed to do. What the IRS is really trying to do here is close the tax gap. The tax gap is the gap between the actual amount of money that should be claimed for tax purposes and therefore taxes being paid on versus what is actually being claimed for tax purposes and taxes being paid on, right? So there's a huge amount of money in the United States of America that is not being claimed for taxes. Right? So we're talking about money that's exchanging hands that just never gets put onto any kind of tax return and no taxes are ever withheld from. Okay, now this happens more than we think, right? There's a lot of transactions that still happen in cash and to the side and things like that. And so what really they're trying to do is get a hold on this, because while these transactions may be small on an individual by individual basis, they add up to a lot when no one is claiming these for tax purposes. So the first rumor that I want to dispel is that these are new taxes, that we're getting new taxes on things that were not taxable before. And so they're just coming after the little guy with these brand new taxes. And that is absolutely not the case. None of this is new. Nothing has changed with regards to what is supposed to be claimed for income tax purposes. They're just trying to go after those people who are not claiming income as they should have been all along. So there's been no changes about what is taxable and what isn't. Okay, so that's number one. Now, the second rumor that I want to dispel is that you all of a sudden are going to have to pay taxes on reimbursing your roommate for rent that you do through Venmo, or paying for your portion of a restaurant bill, right? All those different types of things that we do through Venmo that have absolutely nothing to do with goods and services and are paid typically through a friends and family type of situation. So usually those are going to be done through Cash App, Venmo, or PayPal, right? Or maybe Zelle, where you are just moving cash and you're paying that as a friend or family and probably marking it as such. It's a little bit different depending on which app you are using, but typically there's a way to designate whether it's for goods or services or whether it is for friends and family. If you are truly marking these things as friends and family and it really is these types of kind of everyday transactions and you're not trying to make a profit off of them, you have nothing to worry about. You will not get a 1099K for those. You will not have to worry about it at all. However, if you are putting these through as goods and services, then yes, you will get a 1099K if the total amount that you have run through that specific payment processor in aggregate over the full year for all transactions is over $600. It used to be 20,200 transactions, and it's come all the way down to $600, which not so coincidentally, right, also matches the threshold for business owners to send a 1099 to contractors. So we're kind of closing that gap of this unreported income that has existed for a long time. So you will get a 1099K if you are selling goods and services through one of these platforms. Now, the exception to the rule, however, is Zelle, and I'm going to get into that in just a minute. But for Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, yes, if you are selling goods and services through those platforms and they are marked as such, you will get a 1099. I do want to say here really quickly that I don't want people, and I know that this happens in practice, but I just feel like it must be said, please do not transact business through friends and family in order to get away from having to report this income and get your 1099K, okay? And also don't do it if you're trying to get around fees, because typically when you run these through as goods and services, you likely have fees all the way up to about 3% that might be part of what you're getting charged by that platform. All right. Some people will send it through friends and family in order to avoid those fees and also to avoid those 1099Ks. And I really do not recommend that. I don't recommend it for a lot of reasons. First and foremost, that is against the terms and services of those platforms they're using. They can actually shut down your account and hold on to your money. And that has happened to many people. They know what business transactions look like, and you really do not want to get shut down and have your money held by one of these payment platforms. So I definitely don't recommend that. And also I don't recommend trying to hide this money from the IRS. The IRS will find it. They always do. It's never worth it. Just report the income that you make and make sure to be deducting your real tax write-off expenses against it so that you're only paying taxes on your profit and not the full amount of your income. Okay, so that's kind of my little aside. Please make sure to report all your income, and please do not run real business payments through friends and family. I will tell you, as a consumer, it also doesn't look good. I will run away from even people who are small business owners who ask me to do that, because it just feels a little strange when someone is asking me to lie. Then all of a sudden, as a consumer, I am having to violate the terms and service by checking a box that I know is not actually correct. And that is not going to be a really good relationship for building a business and building trust with your consumers. So please don't do that. As a consumer, I also don't recommend doing it because you take away any protections as a consumer. So if I do put this through as friends and family, and then I don't actually get the thing that I bought, right? I can't go into that platform and contest it like I can if I mark it as goods and services. So PayPal, for instance, has a way that consumers can go in, and it gives a lot more consumer protections. So that's another reason that as a consumer, I really don't want to pay through the friends and family function. Okay, so that's just an aside for those of you who are using friends and family. Please don't do that to try to get around the rules. It's really not a good practice for business owners anyway, for a lot of reasons. Okay, and now the third rumor that I want to dispel is that banks are going to be reporting any amounts over $600 as well. So that was originally in some of the congressional acts that they were looking at. And so there was a huge hullabaloo about that back in 2021, where everybody was worried that now all of their bank statements were going to have to go to the IRS if they were over $600, which who doesn't transact more than $600 in their bank account, right? So there was a lot of concern about that. That was actually taken out. So that is no longer a part of anything that was passed. So any information you see on that is old and stale and isn't something that actually came to light. The only changes relate to these types of payment processors that will be sending now a 1099K for amounts over $600. So I mentioned Zelle a little while ago, so I wanted to jump more into that and tell you why they're a little bit of the exception to the rule, but why it really doesn't matter overall anyway. But overall, Zelle is the one that will not be sending you a 1099K. Actually, there's been various different discussion around this. Some people say they will, they won't, but I went straight to Zelle to say, what are they saying? And on the Zelle website, it specifically says Zelle does not report transactions made on the Zelle network to the IRS. The law requiring certain payment networks to provide forms 1099K for informational reporting does not apply to the Zelle network. So I looked a little bit into that to see exactly where they were coming from to say that. And ultimately, their stance is that they are not a third-party settlement organization, who this rule is really meant for. So Zelle doesn't actually have a function where they can hold your cash, similar to some of these other payment processors. They are simply facilitating the payment between banks. And so they say that they are not technically a third-party settlement organization, and therefore they do not have to send 1099Ks. So I would not expect to get one from Zelle. However, if you're thinking about using Zelle in order to get around these reporting requirements, remember what I said earlier, which is please, please, please always make sure that you're reporting all of your income to the IRS. It shouldn't matter whether you get a 1099K or not. You should be doing it as a point of practice. You should be tracking all of that anyway. Even if you are a side hustler or a solopreneur, and obviously if you're a business owner, you want to make sure that you're tracking all your income, tracking all of your expenses, claiming everything just as you should. I promise you it is worth it to do. It is one of our, duties, civic duties, is to pay taxes, and to pay taxes on the amount that we are supposed to pay it on, regardless of how we feel about that. That's just the law. So if you got value out of this, please make sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel. And if you have known other people that have been telling you other things related to this issue, feel free to share this video around. I love it when people share my content to help make sure that people understand what's really, really changing and don't get caught up in all the misinformation that exists out there on the interweb. Please check out more of my content. I have lots of content around tax tips for small business owners. I also have other free resources I would love for you to check out, and I will see you in